Hey everyone, and welcome back to How To with Haley. Today we'll be going over pivot tables, just some basics and how to create a pivot table and manipulate the data to how you want to see it presented. What we covered in the last video was HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP. And those were the two most common questions probably on Excel at all. So we started there for the How To with Haley channel. So hopefully you'll find these helpful if you are looking at videos for XLOOKUP or pivot tables. And there'll be more to come on cleaning the data and getting the data actually ready for your XLOOKUPs or your pivot tables. That'll be coming soon. So let's go ahead and jump into pivot tables. And I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you guys. And now you will see an Excel spreadsheet here. All right, so what this is plant nursery sales data, and this is just a fictitious set of data that has been generated by ChatGPT. Thank you. And I will also do a video on prompt engineering for you guys that will help. But for now, oops, let's unfilter it. I had it filtered earlier. But for now, this will work. So you'll see, I need to pull my year out of this date. So go ahead and get that formatted up to speed. Now it shows the year for all. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to so we have the year, the date of sale, the category that was sold, the item, how much, the price per unit, and then the total for all of these plants in this plant nursery. Okay. So essentially in our pivot table, what we want to see is that since there are several categories and then several items within those categories, and many of the items are a market price, meaning these roses could sell for different prices, obviously, and down to tulips, down to daisies, right? So if I wanted to see basically for roses in the flowers category, the total sales, and for each item within whatever category, I would need a pivot table. And so I'll show you how we could create this. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all of my data. So once I select my data, I go to Insert, Pivot Table. And you'll see that whatever you've selected will pop up here in your table range. So hit OK. And then we have this pivot table filled list. All right. And when you click on the pivot table, you'll see your pivot table filled. I'm going to move my face out of the way over here in the right section. So anytime if you can't see your pivot table filled, for example, if you accidentally close it out, well, now when I click on my pivot table, the field list doesn't come up. So you actually need to right click and hit show field list. So a lot of students run into this problem. So maybe you are too. I just wanted to point that out. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and pull in our rows, which is going to start helping our table form, help us see how we want the data presented. And you can always manipulate it, add stuff, take it away to see exactly how you want your data in your pivot table. But what we're going to put in first is going to be the category. So I want to know what type of plant, right, is being sold. So you'll see that there are 7 different types of plants, all right, in the data. But within those categories, we know that they have different items, right? Lots of items within each category. You have lots of flowers, lots of types of fruit, lots of herbs. So let's go ahead and pull item under category. So now it's sorted by category and then the items that fall within that category instead of having to scroll all the way down all the rows of data to see all of the types. And now I want to know the total sales. So I'm going to put that in my values. And it'll automatically, when you pull a number into your values, calculate as a sum. And so if you wanted a count or an average or something else, you could always change it. But we do want a sum here because we want to know the sum of the total sales for each item within each category. And it'll also subtotal your categories as well. So you can see which category had the highest sales. And it's very insightful. So one thing, anytime I have dollars, so I like to see them as dollars. Okay. I don't want, first off, doesn't even have commas. So that would drive me crazy. So I would go to value field settings. Number format would be the first thing I would want to do to clean this up. And I would go to currency. And decimal places is up to you, depending how detailed you want to get. 2 is fine, right? Because this is dollars and cents. You could even go down to 0 and just have it round to the nearest dollar if you really Didn't need the cents, but we'll leave it at 2 decimal places and hit OK. And there is our beautiful dollar in our total sales. So the other thing that I want to see is the percentage of the total. All right, so the percentage that flowers is of all the categories, maybe the percentage that daisies is of all the items within the category. So let's go ahead and also pull in total sales again in our values field. But this time, so I told you it automatically populates as a sum, but I'm going to make it go to value field settings, show value as, all right, and if we want a percentage, we're going to actually tell it to calculate as a percentage of the grand total. So show values as a percentage of grand total. So I'm going to hit OK. And there we have our values as percentages. And you'll see that when you scroll to the bottom, all the categories sum up to 100%. And within each category, you can see, so flowers are 13%, fruits are 14%. And then you could also get each of the items within each category and see what they are of all the items included. All right. So it seems daisies out of all of the items in all the categories makes up 0.94% of sales. And hydrangeas are a little higher. That I do love hydrangeas. Let's see. It looks like, oh, we've got lemon trees are up there. But if you really wanted, you could sort the data highest to lowest. And we'll get into that in a more advanced pivot table. But if you wanted to figure out the highest percentages and you had a lot of data, you could also sort. But what we'll do now is we're going to add the year to our filter. And let's say we only wanted to see sales in a certain year. So currently we have all the years selected. That's why I went ahead and added the year to the first tab when we first started the video. So go to select multiple items. And let's say we only want to see the oldest. Let's just see 2022. Okay. Maybe there was something going on that year and we want to just see the 2022 sales. So now I have it filtered for only 2022. All right, so 2022, we must have been new because we did not have a lot of sales. And this is probably due to ChatGPT generating data, not generating a lot from 2022, which is okay. But we have daisies, roses, and tulips. But if we go, let's just do 2023. Now we have daisies, roses, and tulips again. And let's go to 2024. And daisies, roses, and tulips again. Let's see if we have a blank year. Oh, we do indeed. So something. This is when I would go and I would look at my data. Let's see here and see why we have a blank year in here. And it could be, let's see, lots of blanks. Ah, because my formula didn't drag down. So if you ever run into that, it's probably because when you extracted, what word am I looking for? Your year, you didn't drag it all the way down the spreadsheet. So rookie mistake, but a great learning lesson. There we go. No wonder it stopped at daisies because I hadn't clicked all the way down through the data. So now a good check will be to again check my filter and see, do we have blanks? Obviously, years should not be blank, and now they are all there. So good learning experience. And now that I've updated, this is also something I want to show you with pivot tables. Now that I've updated my year to pull all the way down, I want to refresh my pivot table. So when I click on my pivot table, go to pivot table analyze. Anytime you change your data source, which was the original sheet, right? My table, I updated my years. Anytime you change your original data source, you need to go in and refresh your pivot table. And so what we're going to want to click is pivot table analyze, refresh. And now the blank that I had selected doesn't exist. So let's click all. They should show up. And now when I filter my years, so let's go back and do 2022. We see data. If I were to click blank, it is non-existent and no values will come up because there are none now. So I could even remove my year from the filter and then pull it back in, drop down. So that blank is still there, but nothing's there. So we can ignore the blank. We have 2022. You can filter by year, 2022. You could do just 2022 and 2023, or you could do just 2024. So you can filter by whatever year you need. Okay, that's very useful, especially if you're just trying to make comparisons. So you could actually repeat this pivot table again and pull in your sum of sales and then filter one for 2022, one for 2023, one for 2024, and then compare. So that's another useful thing for the pivot table. And so this is essentially pivot tables in a nutshell. I will get into more detailed and I guess harder, more advanced functions of pivot tables and all the things you can do, but this should get you started and be a great base um, just for how you could analyze some data pretty quickly, especially when you have lots of data to look at. So hopefully this was helpful. I We'll be back. I think my next video will be on cleaning data. So we'll talk about trimming, uh, joining the data, so concatenating the data, and left, right, mid, just getting the data in a format, if it's not already, that you can use to analyze in the way you need to. So hopefully this is helpful. I will see you all soon. Thanks for joining.